Hello, and welcome to the Music Prophet. So this is really exciting because this is episode 10.
What?
Yeah.
Number 1.
So, high five. And that was a pretty dynamic high five for everyone
10
listening.
fingers in it.
Yeah. That was a full compression.
Yeah, look at your elbow.
That's a trick, isn't it?
It is. A lot of people try and say it's not, but it is. Look at what just happened.
It's true. Magic happens. But this is going to be, I'm really excited because Emily is someone that has been around Sudbury for a while, and she left it for a bit and then came back. But she's done a lot when it comes to music and beatboxing and spoken word and really getting people to be creative. And I'm really excited to let you guys hear the conversation and really just see who she is. Because it's something that it's nice to see in Sudbury, and there's a lot of people in Sudbury that are trying to change the culture and push things forward and make arts accessible, which is always important.
Accessibility is the key.
Exactly. So say who you are.
So my name is Emily, and do I just skip the intro? You just skip.
But what is your stage name?
So my stage name is Sparx, so Sparx. And I am a beatboxer / vocal percussionist / I make weird fart noises with my mouth, and it works out pretty good for me. And I am a Sudbury native, strong and proud. They always do come back. And I just moved back in October, and so I'm pretty excited to kind of, I met Kyle here. That's the guy whose voice was doing the intro, if you don't know. And we're just getting involved with the arts scene in Sudbury and seeing what we can do with it. There are a lot of really awesome and creative people in this city. And, I came out of it, so it's not too bad. Kyle moved to it, so it's not too bad. And we're just really trying to find, the artists. There's a lot of niche, really cool artists in this city. And so, we're back here trying to find them.
Yeah.
Where are you?
But where do you find yourself in that mix? Where does beatboxing fit into all the other music genres?
You know what? I think beatboxing has its own place in all of them. Because drumming does and rhythm does, and beatboxing is something like you could be a beatboxer that's just doing percussion all the time, giving a beat and those beats, every single song has a rhythm, something that you nod your head to, something that you tap your foot to. But then every song also has melodies, which beatboxers can also do, And so, it does come under the hip-hop umbrella, but I don't see myself, I see my art as coming from hip-hop, but I don't see myself solely stuck to a hip-hop culture. I'm very proud to come from that culture, but I make a lot of different kinds of music. I get inspired by people from the likes of James Brown to Jay Dilla to Kelly Clarkson. And so in music, beatboxing can have different kinds of shoes. It all depends on what your style is as an artist, which is really cool about the art. You can kind of choose, do I want to be a hip hop artist? There's a lot of people that just choose to be an a cappella artist. So they'll be a pentatonics or a pitch perfect type of beatboxer. Or you could choose to be, I want to be this crazy EDM dubstep artist, and you're oh, wow. I have yet to hear a country beatboxer, but I'm sure they exist.
I'm sure somewhere they do exist.
They have to, and I've tried it. It doesn't go very well with my style, but it is there. But in my own music, I see myself more on the side of soul, a lot of funk, a lot of hip hop, jazz kind of mesh together into one. But then I'll take a lot of experimental music and electronic music and try to mesh that in there. So it's cool because there's really no guideline. There's no notes like a piano. There's even writing your beatbox beats. It's if I'm going I'm I'm writing on paper like BTKT, BTKT, buka chica, fucka chica, catchy, buka chica, fucka chica, buka chica, catchy. You know, there's no strict guideline to where beatboxers fall in, if that makes sense.
So you're like, when you make sounds, you're essentially saying words which create that sound?
You can. Like that was a pattern that I just did. Like, you can put it into your own words, but a lot of writing it out, it depends, right? Like I said, there's no guidelines. So every single beatboxer, literally every single one, we write out our beats differently. So I'll write it, buka chica, fucka chica, catchy. I'll literally write what that sounds like. But then something else I might, if I'm going like all right, boo-wee-oo, pew-wee-wee-wee-wee-wee-wee-wee, like you just kind of go with it. There's no set structure, so you can, have different phrases, I guess, that turn into beats, but there's no beatbox, this sounds come from beatboxing, or words become beatboxing type structure, I guess.
Yeah.
That answers.
It's because it is, right? Like, it's interesting how that it's still the same songwriting process of tracking everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just instead of words or instead of notes like people use, you're just trying to translate sound into that.
Yeah, which is difficult when they're like, it has its pros and its cons, right? It's like you're free to write whatever you want, but at the same time it would be nice to be like, okay, this is the specific notations. But I know there are a few beatboxers that have worked on creating a sort of notation system. But you kind of bounce between voice memos on your phone, and you'll write what the idea is, and then translating that to a notebook, and keeping both close by, right? One of the worst things that can happen is losing all of your voice memos, which has happened.
Yeah, it's not fun. I mean, everyone's gone through that at one point.
Right? It sucks, man. I rely on those. Even because I use them so often, I'll say, like, pick up a bag of milk. And so when you lose all of those, it's rough. But that's pretty much, if I have a new idea in my head or anything, I take my phone out right away. I kind of record, like, I have some weird sounding ones. I'll listen back and I just hear traffic in the background because I was walking on the street. And I hear myself like in the faint distance, like with my idea. And I'm trying to make it out so hard. Sometimes you lose it, right? But you have to somehow remember it, because you're not gonna, it's not a song that you're like, okay, I'll write down the words and you'll maybe remember the beat later. It's like you're making the song, the melody, if there are words, so you have to find a way to grasp it and remember it,
Yeah, because it's a different process when you make it, like with beatboxing, and I guess also like if you're playing guitar, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah, if you're
where you
freestyling,
can't track that on paper, it has to be recorded.
Yeah, totally the same process. If you're freestyling any type of instrument, the only difference is maybe with that instrument you can write down it was a G and then I did this. But if you're just experimenting with the different chords or different notes on a piano or a guitar or anything like that, like, you understand, you have to take out and record it and try and figure out what that was, and maybe you'll come up with your own chord name for it. I don't know if that's a thing.
Maybe.
Do you play guitar?
I mean, like, you can invent chords. A lot of guitarists have done that.
Okay, then fair. Yeah, you can do the same thing. Just name it what you want. But it would have fitted, what a kid would.
Right?
Yeah.
You just change things up and you just kind of add your own
element.
Spin to a chord, or like you do a pull on with the chord instead of your normal pull off kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Which I love doing, in beatboxing. Like, one of the funnest challenges is just trying to find a sound that nobody's done. And you don't really know if nobody's done it before, but you can hope. But putting in your own spin or style on it, like anything unique that makes it your own, and then you use it specifically.
Is that something that you consciously think about?
You know what? It's something that I have consciously thought about in the past, but never actually acted upon. So I have found new sounds, but it hasn't been because I'm sitting there thinking, I need to find something totally unique that nobody's ever thought of before. It's 99% of the time by accident. So I have this one scratch that I used to do that's like a, and then I found a whistle in it one day. So it was like, I was going like this, and I heard a whistle. I was like, oh, no way, there's a whistle, sweet. So then I kept playing around with that, and then that became like a, and you know, one of those types of whistles. And then from there, I'm playing around with it one day, and I couldn't get the whistle for some reason, and a laser came out of it. So it was like, I was like, and for some reason my bottom lip wasn't working, I guess, and a laser came. So, and that turns out to be my favorite sound that I use a lot. So yes, those are unique sounds, but never was I sitting there thinking like, I need to, and even this lizard sound that I have, it's because I was trying to do another sound, a more popular one that like a lot of people do, and I still can't do it to this day. It's called a lip roll, but I was trying to do that and my tongue was in the wrong place, and so I stumbled upon that sound. So it's always like by accident, but once it comes out of your mouth for the first time, you're like, oh, what was that? And then you try and redo it. It's crazy.
And that's the worst part of experimentation. I find that with poetry, especially when you're reciting, when you're trying to play with presentation of it, that there's times where you phrase something, and then you have this struggle where you literally cannot repeat it.
Yeah, fair.
It's just there's something about the way that you read something, or that you dragged a line too long, and you had to take a breath. And that taking that breath forced you to pause on the exact word of the next line.
And it turned out
great, but then when you try to repeat it, you have to quite literally repeat that vocal pattern. And
that
it's just, you can't.
Mistake you made, right? Yeah, it honestly, I think I was having this conversation with actually a youth like a few weeks back, because I love owning my mistakes. I'm always, I posted something on Instagram like 2 weeks ago or something, and it was, I was in my bedroom trying to do a beat, and I couldn't get it. Like for the life of me, I couldn't get it on camera. For the life of me, I was doing it off camera perfectly fine, and then every time I pressed record, I couldn't get it, and I was getting so frustrated. And so I just posted a video of me screwing it up. And so I started talking to this kid, and he was basically saying like it's really humbling to see people just owning their mistakes. And I told him, and I believe this wholeheartedly, that as artists, most of our masterpieces are mistakes. It's something that we created for the first time. It's not something that was maybe structured or that we intended to make. We don't exactly have a linear outcome when it comes to creating art. We're very emotive, we do what we feel in the moment, and in that there's a lot of mistakes. Something that we do that turns out great could have been a complete accident. And so it's important as artists to own those, because it's all part of the process. We are 95% mistake makers. And then the other 5% is like, once we realize that mistake actually was pretty cool, or that accident that we created, then we're like, okay, and then we work to perfect it.
Yeah, then you just get really good at building off your mistakes to make them useful.
Yeah, and so I think it's like a lot of my art, a lot of the sounds that I make, a lot of the routines I've made have been full, just riddled of mistakes, and it's part of who I've become as an artist, and half my sounds, half my routines just wouldn't exist if they weren't there. So
the fact that your set list is never fully confirmed, or like that when someone looks you up, they don't get the same thing every time, does that affect the way that you can play with other like rock bands or metal bands or rappers? Or
no, because I'm very adaptable. Like I can create a set list if it's needed. And I usually do if I'm doing like a longer show, but for the most part, if I'm performing with another band, it's very hands up in the air. Let's just see how it goes, because they usually might have a drummer. I've done shows where it's like I'm with a vocalist and a bassist, and I think think there was a guy playing guitar that time. And we didn't plan anything. They were just like, just let us start the song with 10 seconds. Let us go 10 seconds in and then just freestyle the rest with us. And it was awesome because, you know, the bass is kind of kept with the rhythm. And so I just followed what I was hearing from him, and it was all improvised. And that was really cool. So in that sense, it hasn't affected shows or anything, just because it means that just if I show up to a gig and it gets cut from being 30 minutes to like 5 minutes, I can be like, okay, sure, like I can adapt to that. It's not like I don't have anything, or if vice versa happened, I can, okay, sure, I can adapt to that. But
that must be brutal for the vocal cords, though. Isn't like is that something that comes up where after a 30-minute show, since you're using purely vocal cords, the fact other musicians can play 3 minutes of a song, but they're doing sort of more basic actions versus what you're doing?
I think if anything, I don't do too much vocal that would be hard on my vocal cords. Like hard on your vocal cords would be things like vocal basses, like like just that hurts my throat. So I would be very like flexible with those sounds. If I'm doing a regular set, it involves singing. It wouldn't be that much different from a singer. It would probably be more lenient because I have some bits where I'm not doing any of those vocals at all. I'm doing like that doesn't use any of my vocals.
Right.
It's just using like my jaw, which it would get sore. But you get used to it after a while. I did have TMJ back in the day though, and so now I know to like do really like to do stretches for my jaw beforehand.
You might want to expand on what that is.
TMJ.
Because some people don't know probably.
I can't tell you what the acronym stands for. Doctors can, but I can't. But it's basically it's usually when people grind their teeth at night that it stresses your jaw out so much.
Right.
For some it can lock, for some you get headaches. I have the really bad migraines and like jaw soreness. And so I went to my doctor and they're like, yeah, it sounds like you grind your teeth. I'm like, no, like, do you think it would be because I do this beatboxing thing? And they were like, what is that? So I did it in the doctor's office. And mind you, this was 2 weeks before the World Championship. So I was practicing 4 hours a day, like easily. And which was, hard on my jaw. And so they were like, after they heard it, they're like, yeah, that's probably it. Like, never heard that before, but that's probably why. How often are you doing it? Like 4 hours a day. They're like, that's definitely why. So they gave me all these different stretches and exercises that I have to do, like stretching, like resistance exercises and massaging and just things that I have to do to kind of rehabilitate my jaw. Back then I had to do it, and now I do it to just like maintain and stretch it before using.
Right.
Which is so funny because we talk all day long and we use our jaws, but we're not using them at the intensity of like a beatboxer is.
Right.
Of like it's shifting so much and opening and closing at like fast pace. When we talk, it's slower, I guess. But
yeah, especially because even if you talk, or like when people go to conferences, or if you have meetings all day and you're talking for 9 or 10 hours, your jaw doesn't really hurt that much.
No, but
whereas when it's extremely quick movement like that,
yeah. So I think by now I must be used to it. Like sometimes I do feel like, oh, it's a little sore, like I'll take a break. But you get used to it. A lot of people ask me about my jaw and then also like breathing. Like, how are you not out of breath? But those
because I've never seen beatboxing before, obviously.
I guess so, yeah. But with your jaw, you have to make sure to like be conscious how it's feeling. If it locks, probably don't do that sound again. And then with air, like you have to find sounds that circulate. Where like when you're listening to a song and you hear the singer breathe in like a. We don't really have those moments, so we do that in sound. So we'll go like, and that's a breath in, and is a breath out. So
right.
And then you get used to it. I have gotten pretty lightheaded from just over practicing, but like I said, you also just have to learn from that and be conscious.
But it's also a process, right? You can't avoid that, and if you're practicing a certain sound.
That's the thing. I think I was practicing like a, what was it? Like I was practicing something like that, which is
that
like,
would do it, yeah.
I think my lungs are going like this when I do it, like just contracting. So, you know, I had to take a break, drink some tea, and then go back to it.
Yeah, that would kind of force your lungs to just basically
Figure it
not
out.
do anything.
I don't know. Can't you like train yourself to stay underwater for longer?
Yeah, like you can train.
It's the same like idea.
Yeah, you can train your lungs like the David Blaine way, and
Yeah.
right, like it's all malleable, right?
I can hold them for a pretty long time. I don't know. I never timed it, but it's pretty long. So
is that is that the result of training more? Is that your lung capacity is actually growing?
I think so. Like I can hold a note for a while. Beatboxing also taught me to sing because I wasn't much of a singer before, just in terms of like hitting different notes. And then when I started doing things like siren or like the trumpet, it makes you hit higher notes.
Right.
And so I think it was when I was learning the trumpet mostly that I was like, and trying out different like pitches and like.
Because that's all tone, like that's
It's
all
all
that's
tone,
all
right?
keys, right? That you're just going up, and you would have to be conscious about that.
Yeah, and I feel like it's just like one day I woke up and I was like, oh, I can actually, do that with my vocal cords too, because I'm already doing it, just in song version. So it's trained, my vocal cords in different ways, my lungs in different ways, my jaw, and even like with throat bass, like different kinds of throat basses that you do, your vocal cords do strengthen, right?
Right.
So like if I'm doing like a maybe 5 years ago that would have really hurt to do, or like a those types of sounds.
Yeah, so that's going deep in your throat.
Yeah, and they're not good for your throat by any means, but you train. There's people I know who they're fantastic at doing those sounds, and it trains your vocal cords. So it's not all bad, right?
And have you expanded into just singing or like just writing? Like, is that something that you'll do in the future?
Writing, I do a lot of. Like, I really do enjoy writing. And last year at Unity Festival, I performed my first like mesh spoken word and beatboxing piece, which was really cool. I don't have it on me because I was literally reading it on stage. But it was cool because I kind of meshed like a faster, spin it around, stop, rewind, rewind, repeat that sound. Different things like that, incorporating the two elements together. And then with singing, like I do it with my beatboxing. I don't think who knows? Who knows where I would mesh into, but I would see myself as always incorporating it. But I do take on a lot more beatboxing styles with singing in them. I listen to a lot more beatboxing that is very musical, because there's some beatboxing that it's just straight and that's all it is, which is great. I love that too. But I stick to something that's more like a you see the difference?
Yeah.
One's more like very technical, and then one's more musical. There's a song there's a story.
And it was kind of actually because before this, I was looking at videos of her performances, but then also I got trapped into the rabbit hole of just watching beatbox battles.
You did? That's awesome!
Which was fantastic. So anyone listening, you should check out some beatbox battles because it's pretty incredible, the diversity of it.
Yeah, no it is.
And it's one of those things that when you go into it, you don't really think about the variety, and then you see the styles that some people have, and some beatboxers just imitate rap songs.
Yeah.
And essentially just add their own snare drums into it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the routine. Or other people just go completely full dubstep trance. Like it's ridiculous, the variety. So yeah.
That's what I mean, like about like with YouTube coming around, it's really helped the art develop, because like in the 80s and 90s, it was very just percussive. It was like, this is going to be the track. Or like I said earlier with Razel, oh my gosh, Razel, who would do the songs on the radio that was like, if you got that pump, noop, 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 noop. It's a very 4/4 hip hop, bob your head to it. Whereas now, because so many kids or people online have been able to just bounce ideas off of each other from, you know, Wisconsin to Europe to Japan, China, Russia, everywhere, all over the world, the art in itself has evolved so much because, like, some things kids are doing nowadays is insane. They're, like I said, it's like dubstep, trance, like right. Whatever they're going into.
And then you get styles like, is it Tom Torque? He's from Australia?
Yeah, Tom Thummer.
Tom Thummer, that's it. Because his style, he basically imitates almost this, what it would sound like to recreate a rap beat, piece by piece. And it's just, it's incredible because it's that way where it's not even a style. It's just he's imitating human sounds.
Mm-hmm. He's a very like effects types of beatboxer, and that's where like it's cool because there are so many different kinds. People don't always think that. You hear the word beatboxing, you think right away like a 1-2 hip hop beat, and when really, you know, the community itself is just full of like all of these different styles. You go to a battle and you're being judged on musicality, technicality. How original is it? How's your stage performance? Is it unique? Like, is this something we're hearing for the very first time? Things like that, like, are all taken into account. And so we're at the point, because this worked maybe like 5 years ago, but now we're at the point that it's so unique. It's hard to look at a guy, one of my favorite beatboxers, Jin Shinozaki, look at him, and like, who's a very musical beatboxer. He's very inspired by the likes of Bobby McFerrin, you know,
all
of those. His style is just so cool and so musical. It like eargasms all day. But you compare him to like a world champion too, who's all technical, like a Lem. And it's like, how do you say one's better than the other in a battle? So it's almost it's evolved to this point that it's like we need to almost shift these different categories. Because it's like, it's almost like, I guess, the guitar evolved and we realized like, so country music and oh my gosh,
and
jazz and rock.
You are completely blanking on genres.
And like looking at this and being like, okay, like it's not all just under the umbrella of guitar. It's under like these different styles that people can do, right? So it's interesting, and I think it as it evolves, it's becoming more respected. There's still a lot of people that don't know about it, that don't know what it's all about. But compared to when I started, a lot more people that are like, oh yeah, I go to schools in rural Alberta, and a kid looks at me and they're like, yeah, did you see Alex Hino? Which is like, you know, you gotta be really into beatboxing to know who that is. And I'm like, yes, I do know it. Like, how do you know? Because of the power of, you know, YouTube and the wormholes and everything like that. So it is spreading.
Does that change how you listen to music now? When you listen to certain genres, does the way you interpret it?
If I'm listening for that, like, I think it gave me a really open eye to like how music is made, because I break down songs. So if it's a song that I'm really rating and I want to kind of break it down and see if I can do it, then I'll look at it that way. But I've listened to songs and it just makes me really think of, okay, this is the drums and there's the bass and this is and then I'm trying to remake it with my mouth. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I can't. This is such a good song. Like,
you don't want to ruin the song.
I don't know what they're doing. This is so good.
Because that would be the risk at that point, is that by you imitating it, and if you can't recreate it directly, then now the value of the song is basically at zero.
Yeah. In
your eyes anyway.
Yeah, but also, I mean, if everyone else knows that song and I'm doing a crappy job at covering it, then it's the same as any other musician, just like doing a great song and reproducing it. Only now it's like all pressure on me for that.
Yeah, no one.
But it's
no
hard,
one makes
you
a
know.
bad cover.
it's hard to do a cover and add everything acoustically. Like if I'm using a looper machine, then it's different. But if I'm just creating something like No Diggity, where it's like, I like the way you work it, no, 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 you're not really able to add in other sounds because you're singing and you're doing the snares, right?
So that is actually a really good point, I think, because when, like, within what you're doing, you're taking songs, just adding your own twist.
Yeah.
So do you have the problem sometimes where you're trying to recreate a song that you know you can't because everyone knows it and you don't want to?
No, you know what? I think a couple of years ago, I was too hard on myself for that because I was trying to remake a song that everyone knew with Titanium. And
yeah, I see it.
Yeah, and I couldn't. I was listening to the song and I was trying to recreate it, and it was just such a headache for me because I was trying to get it exactly how it is. And then I realized, like, no, like I don't have to have it the exact version because that's not what I'm trying to do. So then I think I added like a remix. I was like, gosh, I can't remember what I did. It was like bulletproof, proof, 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 bulletproof, like, you know, I just remixed it kind of. And I feel like you do get some leeway because you're doing it all with your mouth. Whereas, like, if you're like a full-out cover band, a lot less leeway.
Yeah.
You know?
And if you're a producer that has the technology and Pro Tools, then you should be.
Then what are you even doing? Yeah. Which I am, like, that is something that I'm working on right now, of like playing around with different beat pads, and I got an MPC, and so I'm definitely learning the tricks of it and hoping that it'll help me, you know, progress with my music, and just like being able to record over myself and remix should be awesome. I'll let you know how it goes.
Once it's finished, then
yeah, exactly.
As a beatboxer, where can you go from here? Like, after the World Championship, now that you're teaching kids, is that what you really want to do with it? You want to educate, get more people into it?
I think so. I think that there's a lot that you can do with it. Like, I have some friends that are on cruise ships now. That's their careers. I have friends that they're performing, they're trying to make it on like America's Got Talent and stuff. And then I have, you know, I know some people that they joined like an a cappella band, like Pentatonics, and that's a career, because that's actually really huge in the States, a cappella bands. Like, it's like,
that's surprising.
It's a whole shebang, man.
Well, between that and barbershop quartets. Like, a cappella music in general is a big thing in the States. I don't get it.
Massive. And so you can have your entire career mapped out for you if that's what you decide you want to do. But I love teaching, you know, and beatboxing was a huge way for me to see how much I loved teaching and being surrounded by youth. So I think that for me, myself, I really want to stick to performing. I like jamming with people, and using. My next project is figuring out this MPC, because that is a headache in itself. Just learning any new music software is like, oh no, not again. Because like it took forever for Fruity Loops, and now it's like I'm back to zero. So that's kind of where I want to go next and see where producing kind of takes me. Because you can just do a lot. I feel like you have a good understanding of music and beats and where it all comes from organically, and so, you know, you can do so much things with beatboxing. If you're, you know, Bobby McFerrin, you conduct entire stadiums just with your voice. Or if you're Tom Thummer, you know, this guy travels. He made this great TED Talk back in the day, and he's now traveling, just like he does sound effects, he does different tracks, but you have to expand. You can't just stick to this one thing. You have to see where else it takes you, because it does take you a lot of ways. Beatboxing is not linear by any means, of like, you learn how to beatbox and then you become an artist and that's your career. It's like, no, you gotta learn to adapt, figure out where you belong, where you see yourself. Do you want to be a teacher? Because that is possible. It's possible to also just be a touring beatboxer opening for shows, right? But the idea that you'll headline one won't come unless you have other things, like you're looping or you're doing, or you have a crew or something like that, right? Which there are some incredible crews out there. Very Glam right now. I think they're still on America's Got Talent.
I think so.
Yeah, and they're just killing it. So things like that, like it's there's a lot of options for career-wise if you want to do it.
Yeah, because there's a lot of room to grow as well. I mean, subculture isn't really used to seeing it.
Huge, like, yeah, a lot of room to grow, which is why there's just like so many options. Yeah, you can be a gimmick, which a lot of people just starting out in beatboxing think that that's the only thing of like, yeah, it's a great party trick or something. Get booked to do someone's bar mitzvah all the time. But there's a lot more options for you as a musician, but it is important to like push yourself to expand and like learn different things in it.
So how did you? Because I think you touched on the fact you mentioned that's a gimmick. I think it's something that a lot of musicians go through too, where they just doesn't matter what skill it is for a while. It's that thing where everyone knows you're good at it, so they ask you to sing a few.
Oh my gosh.
They ask you to like make certain sounds, or they ask guitarists to play a certain bass line.
Yeah.
And then that's it. Like that's what you're known for.
You know what though? I feel like we spoke about this last week too, is like the worst thing is if you're a guitar player and you show up somewhere, you don't have a guitar. Oh, sorry. But me, I show up somewhere and it's like, oh, you're a beatboxer. Beatbox right away. And so it is a party gimmick. Like for the longest time, I would go out with my friends and we had a rule, like, don't tell anybody I'm a beatboxer if we were going to a party or something, just because I didn't want to be put on the spot to just beatbox anywhere to anyone. I don't even know your name, Joey. I relate to that with like comedians too, because comedians, like I had some friends and we'd go out and we'd have my rule in effect, and then someone would let us say, oh, but Joey's a comedian, and then all of a sudden poor Joey, it's like, tell us a joke then. So in that sense, it's like, yeah, if you have something that is niche or you're talented with and you carry it around, except for singers, you don't hear that much of like, sing a song.
But I feel like singing is associated with background music.
Yeah.
And so I don't know whether, I feel like that's the difference where beatboxing or comedy is all new.
Yeah.
You create the sound or the joke.
Yeah.
So there's no dependency. So they're like, go ahead.
Just like they think it's cool. They're like, yeah, entertain us, please. Which is where I say like it's a gimmick. Like singing can be seen as a very professional career, or it's like, yeah, someone could be a bad singer. And so if they say they're a singer, it's like, well, we're not going to put you on the spot. But usually if you're like, I'm a comedian, I'm a beatboxer, it's like, oh, so you're an entertainer. Entertain us, young Claude. So for the longest time, I didn't want my career and what I do to be seen as a party trick or a gimmick. So I would not tell anybody. I even still have friends now that I have on Facebook or something, and I'll post like a beatboxing video and they'll message me, I didn't know you beatbox. I've known you for 2 years. What the heck? And I try to, I'm like, yeah, dude, sorry. I didn't want to do it at that party.
It just never came up.
and sometimes it doesn't, it doesn't come out. I have no idea if you play any instruments or what you do, right? And so,
I'm not with poetry 100%.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it just doesn't come up in the conversation, but I find it's oddly the same. Like I can think back to Northern Lights of 2019 and I had to freestyle poetry with a rap beat twice.
No way.
Which was ridiculous because it doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't.
You can't freestyle poetry with a musical rhythm because then it's rap.
Yeah. And you also just can't like do your art right now. Right now. Like, if you meet a dancer, I'm never going to be like, dance for me right now. Dance, monkey. And the funniest thing happened last night when I was at a funeral, and someone said like, we should get her to beatbox to like the mood, and I was like, time and place, people, come on, like, no, but it's something that I guess people don't think of, but you're seen as an entertainer, which I don't want to see myself at that. I want to see myself as a musician, as professional, and when you stoop down to like, yeah, I'll do this for anyone, anywhere, party trick, it's not a snobby thing to do. It's just I genuinely respect my craft, that I don't want it to be just thrown out there, right?
Right, and it's a self-confident. It's not even, it's just yourself, and you know that.
Yeah.
it's not really the right time for this.
Exactly, and I think that should be something that's, you know, for any artist, like, art is a very emotive process. You have to be in the right mind frame to do it. Some days I just don't feel like waking up and beatboxing. And same for you, probably like writing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not in the right mind frame too, and you're just forcing it, you won't actually gain anything from it. And you should always gain something from performing your art or participating in whatever art form you have. So it's okay to say no to that. Like it's okay to be like, no, I don't feel like it, or no, I don't want to. And some people may be like, oh, you're bougie. And I use the I don't do free shows sometimes. That line usually works. But you know, it's you have to be in the right mind frame.
Yeah, because there's a time and there's the context. And
yeah, and you don't want your art to be just seen as something, a gimmick where it's like you're a monkey. Because sometimes it can feel like that.
Then it gets undervalued, right? Because
exactly.
then all of a sudden $10 ticket doesn't seem worth it if they're able to do it
exactly
in front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's a valid, like that's a major problem. But how long did it take you then to get over that? Was that something that it just years of performing at parties and finishing and then people go back to their life and
no,
move
you know
on?
what? It took me to feel very uncomfortable. It took me to like feeling not happy or excited for someone to be like, oh, you're a beatboxer, cool. Like kind of dreading people knowing. And I think I remember like there was this one get together I went to a few years. I had been beatboxing for a couple of years. It was after I won in World, so like 2016 I'd say. And I was at this place and it was like, oh, she's a beatboxer, turn off the music. And so they turned off the music, turned on the lights. And I'm not a very shy person, but I can be. I'm extroverted when I've prepared myself and I'm, ready for it. Not when it's like, spotlight, here you go. And so it was at this party and like everyone just stopped, formed a circle around me. And I was already there being like, no, I'm good. No, come on, you gotta do it. And so I did. And I just felt bad after. I didn't feel good. I was like almost embarrassed, but nothing happened. Like everyone was like, that was great. It was awesome.
Yeah.
They enjoyed it. Back to your own life. But it was also just, the follow-up questions that come with it. So many things. You were there the other day, right? There's a lot of questions afterwards. So I think that was like the tipping point. Where after that I was like, we're not telling people when we go. Like they will shut off the music and turn on the lights. We can't have this. We can't have people turning on the lights. Are you kidding me? I'm sweating. And so, and that wasn't the first time that someone had turned off the music. And then I feel really bad. I'm like, not everybody in this room wants to hear it. Someone was probably jamming out really hard to that song. And now they're like, who's this, right? I think it was like a sequence of events, and then it was like, okay, this is making me feel bad about my art. It's making me feel like it's undervalued, underappreciated, even though people are very appreciative of it in the moment. And I realized I'm just like, I need to do things that like make me feel comfortable. And if I want to still go out and have fun, then I gotta be comfortable, because like otherwise the whole night's off, right? I might as well go home. And then I gotta value my art form. I gotta, raise the bar. Do I really just want to, you want to hear what I do? Sure, I'll do something that I just came up with on the spot while I'm, not prepared for it. Or do I want to say like, hey, check out my stuff that I've worked on professionally and follow me, like help me out in my career? Because if they hear it all there, they're not gonna go home and maybe look for it, right? So it came to that kind of sense of me trying to grow my career professionally. Am I just going to, for anyone and any whom? And I still do, in the right settings, like I still, go to campfires and like we end up jamming and it's great, but that's by choice.
Right. And it's also a jam session, right?
It's a jam session. Come on, people. I hate being the only one in the room, but it's definitely something that I think people who have, I guess, a transportable art form can relate to, of like, yeah, you don't want to tell a joke every time you tell somebody that you do make jokes for a living, because you just don't feel, you have an off button.
True.
You don't go up to Jimmy Fallon in the streets and you're like, Jimmy, tell me a joke.
Right?
Come on, Jimmy. He's off. He's doing his own thing, right? Just same as I don't look at every accountant and give him my tax dollars. Do them now. Right now.
That's a good way to finish it too, I think.
Yeah.
Because things are moving forward, and so is this show.
Ooh.
Right? I don't know, transitions are becoming my specialty.
Wow, really? I can tell.
But that was really cool. That was a really good conversation, I think, and it's really cool to see the mix of the freestyling and then just overall, it was a dope conversation, I think.
Yeah, we killed it.
Yeah, we nailed it.
Yeah. Halfway through, I realized I have a Spider-Man sticker on me.
I saw you the Spider-Man sticker and I liked
it. A child definitely put this on me today. I showered and everything. I guess it just really stuck.
It was meant to be there.
Those 3-year-olds, they'll get you.
So do you want to tell us where we can find you?
Oh yeah.
Before you go.
Sorry, I'm just writing out the sticker.
And then it's going to be safe space, which is exciting because we have another musician on that show actually.
So you guys can find me on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube at Sparx Beatbox. So SPARX and then Beatbox BEATBOX if you need to know. And I post a lot of beatboxing, just like I was saying earlier. When I have an idea, I'll go on my phone and make a video, and it'll probably go really badly, but then I'll post it anyways just to show the process. And then on YouTube, I have some finished pieces on it, some battles that you can probably find. But I mostly just post finished pieces on YouTube. So Instagram is like the process, and then YouTube, you can see the end result. So definitely find me there. And if you guys heard of me through here, let me know. Let Kyle know.
Yeah.
I'll let Kyle know if you let me know.
That works for me. And thanks for listening. I'm really excited that I found that I got to 10 episodes. It's a good start. It's small, but it's a good start.
10 episodes.
So stay tuned for next week on The Music Prophet.